I've done all the marketing stuff. Got the email sequences, just created a new lead magnet, got people coming in, dropping on them email lists. Okay, doing all the stuff. But what's sitting on my spirit is, yeah, I don't want any of that. I don't even, coach is a word that doesn't really even resonate with me anymore like it did at first, but now I really feel myself as more of a guide. And in that vein, then it feels like I want to lead quests. And
Ooh, ooh.
yeah, I want to lead quests inwards. And that might unlock some entrepreneurship for some people, but it might be people who just need, for the first time ever, to be still. And the dissonance that I have is I have a course, I got all this stuff that I could, keep building on.
Hmm.
According to all the marketing gurus, that's what I should keep building on if I want to build wealth and income and all that. And that stuff was fun for me. It was great. I did it, I built it. But now I'm like, yeah, but I'm not there anymore. On to something else. It feels like a lot of work to build the next thing. You haven't even finished this thing and you're already talking about something else, but it feels aligned.
Yeah, yeah. That word keeps coming up for me.
So I love that you, like I said, you and I seem to be like same energetic like space. I love that you're like, yeah, no, I need to put that away. I need to have a clean line and go in this next direction. Because as I was thinking about leading a quest,
Hmm.
then I realized, oh, but this identity that I've created doesn't serve. It doesn't feel right anymore.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking of attaching my name to the brand, the next thing, whatever brand or whatever it is that I create. And it feels right, but it also, I'll tell you, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm like, but you just spent all this time. It's a sunk cost when you've spent so much time doing one thing. That this is true of me in college. Like I spent all this time, I discovered that actually language is my jam. My professors were like, you need to study abroad. You love language. You pick it up like nothing and you sound like a native. You need to go. And I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got computer science to finish. I need a job. I need to make some money. So that
Right,
actually, I quit that second, no, what do you call it? A second major. I quit that
right.
minor. And it was a mistake. Not one that I'm necessarily sorry for because the whole journey that I've been on now, it brings me to this place where I'm really woke than a way that I may have not been able to have the perspective. But it
Mhm.
was a mistake. I'm really a creative and I was spent so much of my time trying to be the intellect
Yes. Yeah.
when I'm that, but I'm also this creative.
Mhm.
So it's curious. It's inspiring, really, that you have to. And I know we've been talking about this for more than a year. It's inspiring that you took this other thing and you're like, yeah, that doesn't serve. Even though I have clients who want to pay me for that, that's not actually where I want to go.
Yeah.
To see that. So thank you for taking that step because it's a step I'm notional and I'm just like, girl.
Because I really have like moved into this space where there was some trepidation in just, ending a company and starting fresh, right? Starting a new audience, new brand, new services. Where there was some trepidation, I finally got to the point where I'm like, we talked about this before, where that the money will follow the purpose. That there is sustainability in the purpose. There was not sustainability in my past life because I burnt out.
Yep.
So the data tells me that that actually is not true. Right. So I can move from like this point where I know people are like, okay, this is a little woo, but I can move from that point, or I can move from the data, and the data tells me that that does not work. You know, hammering into a business, like doubling down on a business that you don't feel anything around. That is not a recipe for success. It's not. Certainly not my idea of success.
How long, really, maybe not even how long, what did you have to do to trust that truth?
It took a minute. I can put some time around it. It took a minute, right? So it took. Here's the thing: is that when you know, I really believe that we are purpose, right? Like we are purpose is living and breathing, and we are purpose, right? And you were birthed as purpose. Like there, you are purpose. As I think back at my life, how many times purpose tried to tap me on the shoulder and say to me, Nikki, this is what you're supposed to be doing, or Nikki, this is how you live in it. Like when I think about that, it makes sense to me that that it makes sense to me that it came together so quickly when I finally accepted it. Because here was purpose like orbiting all around me, and like you know, purpose was just like, I don't know when this chick is gonna figure this out, but here I am anyway. Right? Like watching me win awards, watching me win RFPs, watching me get, you know, get prestige. Purpose is just watching me like, all right. I mean, just imagine how much more it's gonna be when you got me on your side, right? So like it happened quickly, and it is now happening quickly because I finally accepted it. But I had to first acknowledge, you know, and I really done the work. It does take some time to do work. I had to acknowledge that it has been here all this time. My mom told me, you know, I told you this story a long time ago, but like my mom told me when I was like 11 years old, and she sat there, she watched me talking to my friends, and I don't know, I was running my mouth as usual, but like I don't know what I was saying, but whatever I was saying made her pull me aside afterwards. And she said, Nikki, I want you to understand the gift that you have. And she said, Nikki, people will listen to you. You have to be responsible with that. And she told me that when I was 11 years old. Right? And so like every school, every summer camp, every organization, I've always been picked as a leader. Always. So like these things just kept happening and like telling me, you know, like reminding me of that there was a bigger thing, and it had to do with me and other people, right? Not just in some peripheral way, in a direct way, me leading or teaching other people, right? So that kept coming up, and I kept saying, leave me alone. And so, you know, it makes so much sense now that like as much when I stop resisting, when I stop fighting, because that's all that's been happening, is that I've been fighting it. Like, you know, when I wanted to, about 4 years ago, I was considering, like, so purpose had kind of knocked very hard, and I was like, you know, I had said to my partner at the time, I was like, I don't think that people come to us for design and public relations services. I think they come to us for advice. Like they come to us like, you know, to find out how we do stuff, like to give them advice. And she was like, I am not Oprah Winfrey. Right? And I was like, right, okay. And I let it go. That was like 4 years ago, right? And but I did feel something to that, and it stayed there. And I listened to it for a little bit, and then I was just like, she's right. We not Oprah, right? And I just let it go. But it kept coming back and kept coming back. And you know, when people would ask me to speak, they would ask me to speak on topics that were not graphic design related. So for me, when I got still, did some work and some exercises to be like, okay, when was this moment? Like, when did I feel most connected to freedom? When did I feel most connected to the possibilities of what could be? Right? When was I living in possibility? When was I actually living in possibility? Right? So it wasn't even like, can I fly on a unicorn and be a stewardess? I am flying on a unicorn and being a stewardess. Right? So I took myself back to that time and I was like, okay, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. And every time I was tempted or have been tempted, in this transition time, I've been tempted to be like, let me just go back to the money. Every time there is a hiccup of some sort, the project overruns, and then the money that was easy money was not easy, or the person just doesn't receive the design services as they normally would. Every time I try and go back, it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. And I think that is a perfect reminder, because as I'm moving into purpose, I've also said, you know, God, make sure that anything that's out of purpose does not come back into this orbit. And as I sit in that, every time I try and bring it back, purpose is like, me, you had we agreed, and no, I'm not gonna do, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do it. It gets harder and harder. Once you become conscious of it, it gets harder and harder to ignore it.
Yeah. A couple things come up for me. I love so many distinctions you're calling out. One, that living into possibility versus scarcity. The case in the money is for scarcity generally. We're just like, can I create this money? Hustling also is hard. I feel like there's this unspoken or maybe spoken, I'm not sure, propaganda that it's supposed to be hard. And if you're not hustling, then you're not like, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You don't want it badly enough. You need to be hustling. You need to be grinding. And I don't find that to be true in a purpose driven business. You need to be aligned. You actually need to be calm.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I do believe that there are points of resistance and contrast, right? And so I can honor them for what they actually are, but I don't push through them anymore, right? Like I can say, okay, okay, something's happening there. This is not quite feeling right.
Right.
What is this actually? Versus no, just head down, push through, hustle hard. No,
Yeah.
no.
Also, this idea of awakening to your purpose, right? Like it's there the whole time trying to guide you. I know for myself, the Great Awakening helped me see my purpose.
Yes.
To your point of like, it's always there. Similar story for myself. And I actually need to check in with you because I know this conversation we weren't even planning to have and we're over time. Do you have time to stay
Good.
here?
I'm good.
Audience, we had already wrapped up one conversation and we just kept going and they felt super juicy. So we're just giving you the outtakes behind the scenes. But similar story that I've always felt, and it's very funny that we're having this conversation again. Synchronicities we talked about the last time I mentioned to you is that I keep feeling that I've been, I don't know what the right word is to say, but my whole life has felt like I'm the leader, the accidental leader. And I'm just like, no, it's not this ain't my show. No, this is somebody else's show. But I end up with the baton. I end up with the leadership. And I'm just like, no, you don't understand. I don't want this.
Right.
But
Right.
but every time I go back and I journey inwards and I go and ask the question, where am I supposed to be? It always ends up I'm supposed to be leading in
Mm-hmm.
one way or another, and it's hard for me to accept because I want to be like, yeah, no, there are better qualified people, or I don't want the responsibility, right? Or the visibility even. And
Yeah.
yet it just keeps
Yeah.
it just keeps coming back. And I think that awakening to purpose and then obeying it is, that's probably, like we talked about in the last conversation, logos or trinket, all that other stuff. When you are awakened to your purpose, you start to obey it, everything gets easier. And not like it's easy, but it
Yeah.
gets easier.
Yeah. That
Um,
part right there is powerful though. And obey it.
and obey it.
Because there's a bunch of us now that are awakened to it. Are we obeying it?
Yeah. Do you think it's the conditioning that keeps us from obeying?
Absolutely. I think it's the condition. I think, certainly as women, and then as Black women, like we got a couple ticks on us, but and as women and Black women, we have certainly been conditioned to be quiet and not uprise and not not push, not want too much, not need too much. So there's a few kind of monkeys on our back, that are would say, no, no, you are fine exactly how you are. No more than that. That's enough. That's enough.
I think that's really true.
Mhm.
Just letting that settle on me. And I'm like, I do. We're socialized that we're supposed to submit.
Mhm.
And I think, honestly, a lot of times, submit becomes subdue.
Mm.
And those
Mm.
things don't have to be the same, but I do feel like that's how it gets internalized. Submit means subdue.
Mhm.
And it does cause us to question our leadership, our womanhood, our purpose, our audacity.
Yeah.
Who
Yep.
are you to want that? That you and I talked about that castle that you want that is like the bomb. And I'm like, when you first said it to me, I was like, oh, shoot, I need to upgrade my goals. You got a castle? Tell me all about it, right?
And I mean, forever in this journey of kind of this exploration journey that I'm on right now, there's always something, how dare you? Like, how dare you always comes up with me, like, how dare you? And it's not even other people's how dare you. It's my conditioning that says, how dare you? Right. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, this is it. Like, as soon as,
Mm,
as soon as how dare you comes up, I'm like, oh, okay, then this was
there it
my
is.
breadcrumb.
This is
Thank
it.
you.
Got
All
you. You know
right.
what?
I
I
shall
love that.
proceed.
I love that. That's that conditioning as a compass. If it comes up, then that means I'm probably on the right path.
Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely.
that. Let me write that down because, yeah, yeah, noticing it and then calling it out, like, oh, okay, yeah, hello, here you are. I teach this with imposter, right? Like, hello, oh, here I am. I'm having all these negative self talk. Yeah, hi, there you are, trying to keep me safe or whatever. Guess what we're not going to do? You don't get to drive.
Nope. Nope.
What would you say to someone else who's like, yeah, I feel it, I see it, but I got a job or
Mhm.
a house, a kids, a family, and insert whatever reasons that we tend to justify or insert for justification why we can't obey it. What would you say?
So there are a few things, like what in part of my pursuit of ease and flow, part of the thing that I am resolute in not doing anymore is convincing. So for someone who is there, I would probably let them sit there for a minute because I need you to get there on your own first. I don't need you to know what to do. I just need you to get there to the point of readiness. And then when you get there to the point of readiness, now, okay, like you and I can make magic together and I can excavate, right? But up until that point, I cannot, because I have one of the things that I have learned, and I mean, I'm sure this goes against every online guru, but one of the things that I've learned is that I don't want an audience that I have to convince. I don't want an audience. First of all, you are going to start with me. You're not going to do the homework. You're not gonna do, and when I say homework, I mean the internal work after our session, and then it's we need to meet again. You're not going to do it. You're not going to get the best result, the best transformation out of what we're doing together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not pulling you, but if you are ready, you're ready. And ready means, to be honest, you know what ready means? Ready means you've tried to do the things and nothing is working. And you've tried to do them at least 2, 3, 4 times and nothing's working, right? Like you've tried, you've asked other people, like you have literally gotten to the point where now you're like, I submit.
Mm.
And then we can make magic together, because there's nothing I love more than a willing spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I know that because in my rebellion and my resistance, couldn't nobody tell me nothing. Couldn't nobody tell me nothing during that time. You couldn't tell me nothing. So like there are some things that, coaches and online support people, like who are not moving in integrity, they'll tell you things that they've learned from other people. They'll tell you things that, they've taken a program on, and they'll, repeat it. No, this is me. This is my experience. I teach from my experience, right? Like I was not willing to submit. I was not willing to see my purpose, no matter how many times she tapped me on my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I had to fail and fail and fail and fail. Or I had to bump up into contrast and resistance multiple times. And then I'm like, all right, tired. Like, it reminds me of my daughter when she was a baby. When she's so tired and screaming, and you're like, just give in, little one. Just give in. Give in.
Take a nap. You know
Take
you
a
need.
nap. It's okay. Right? And then
Yeah.
and that's what it reminds me of, us as like grown adults. That's what I see. Every time I see somebody in that position, I'm just like, just give in, little one.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a major shift for me when I realized I'm not selling anybody anything. You got to be ready.
You always say that. Yeah.
You gotta want help, and I'm not gonna convince you that I'm the help. It was a major shift for me, and sometimes entrepreneurs come to me and they're just like, "How do I sell with confidence?" And my response is, "You don't sell. You don't need to convince anybody of anything. You show them what you have to offer, sure, and authentically, and if it's right, you don't sell them anything. You don't convince them." But that was a major shift for me to make, because you don't hear that in the world. The world tells you gotta have all your stuff and give them all this information, and information actually doesn't sell. It informs. The what sells is the feeling people get, that and the confidence that you give them that you can help them somehow.
Yeah.
And they got to be ready to submit. They got to be willing to say, you know what, I've thrashed around here. It's like somebody, to your point of thrashing around, I've done it, tried to do it my way 500 times, and it's not working. I need help. And until that person gets to that place, there's really nothing. There's nothing you can do. I love that you said I don't convince, right?
And that's my work, right? Like that's the work. That's the point that I had to come to after doing my work, right? Because in my former life, I was a convincer, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that pulls from me. Like, I'm standing in front of boardrooms and doing presentations for people that are looking at me, rolling their eyes, like convince me, sell me on it.
Yeah. I actually think it's a pretty confident place to come from, and dare I use the word sexy, in this perspective of like, people are drawn to the quiet one.
Mm.
Like, I don't need to tell you. Got the people that'll tell you all the stuff. They talk or loud all the time. I was always repelled by people who talk loud but didn't say anything of real value, but they just kept talking. Versus the one that would go to a party and sit in the corner in a cut, and it's like, what you're not high, you're not drunk,
Yeah.
and you're not the life of the party. Tell me about your life. What?
Yeah, that's me too. That's me too. That is me. That's who I want to talk to too.
Tell me what's like. How did you? What?
Yeah.
I'm I'm a captive audience. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's kind of a place for entrepreneurs to sit, service oriented, purpose driven entrepreneurs to sit. Is like,
Yeah.
do your thing, and whatever that is, let people come find you. If you're so in your thing, so in your lane, so in your purpose, then you need to be a beacon, sure, but you're going to be a beacon by doing your thing
Mhm.
and simply telling people, the right people, in your right way, what you're up
Yeah.
to in the world. People are going to ask you, what you up to in the world?
Yeah.
Really? The castle? Tell me about that. Like, I think that is the anti. It's the rebel. Maybe the rebel way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and I could probably talk about the rebel's way. Like, that sounds like a book.
That does.
The
That,
rebel's way. I'm like, to entrepreneurship. I just, it's so true.
I love it. I love it.
Mm.
I mean, certainly, there was an ad. There was a nursery here, and they have put an ad up, and it said something about it was something along the lines of the children were very very nicely behaved or well behaved, and it said something along the line. It had put a New York Times article about well behaved children and their success in the world. And so, me being the me that I am, I was I was like, that's disappointing. I hope you're not completely beating the rebellion out of them, because all of the change makers in the world were rebels,
Rebels.
right? Like, it's really disappointing. And certainly because I like value the rebellion of childhood. Like, I value that. I put a lot into the rebellion of childhood. And I'm, so disappointing that, we get to the point of 8, 9, 10, 11, and that rebellion is just quieted, you know?
Yeah.
And luckily, some of us, it's reawakened um, in adulthood, but many of us, it's stomped out to the point of no return.
Yeah. There's a good book that you have to take what you take because there's so much mixed into it. But
Mm.
there's a good book, Women Who Run with Wolves. Have you heard of this book?
Mm-mm.
There's a chapter in there about returning home. There's a chapter in there about being the ugly duckling. It is not a light read. It is a heavy read. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's a fascinating read because it takes like the allegorical stories we've heard about the ugly duckling and um, a few other like tales I remember being given the book of, and it walks through like the meaning of those stories, where they really the real roots of those stories come from, and what that relays about the consciousness of women and the journey of women. And the chapter in there on returning home, there's one about finding love that I just felt like really was really resonant. Again, there's a lot in there, so you take what you take, but um, I think that's part of it too, right? We talk about entrepreneurship as the journey, and I think doing that self discovery, going inwards, discovering that rebel or letting that rebel have its say, and yet leveraging, in fact, leveraging all that we are to return home to ourselves in a kind of way. I think that's really powerful work that any
Mm.
human should do, entrepreneur or not, but especially if you're a service driven, purpose driven
Mhm.
entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So,
And what do you think about, because um certainly, neither one of us are in the business of convincing, but what do you think about people who say, well, April, Nikki, that's an intangible. Like, why would I pay for that? Like, I'm not getting I'm not getting a funnel out of it. I'm not getting a logo out of it. Like, why is this important? Like, why would I pay for this?
Somebody came to me recently. I'm back into my answer. Somebody came to me recently and was just like, so I'm looking for an entrepreneur coach, and I need somebody to teach me how to update my LinkedIn profile and get more followers. I'm gonna close this window. Get more followers on Instagram and Facebook and all the things. And I
Mhm.
was just like, oh, that's not my jam, babe. I don't teach you how to hustle. I teach you how to free yourself. And it's kind of hard. I get it because it's hard to explain when people ask me what I do and I say I'm a confidence coach. There's a kind of resonance with like, oh, I need confidence, but it's really guidance to yourself, right? Back to yourself. And that's hard to explain. But what I will say is, just as we talked about before, you and I, that you can go off and you can do all the external stuff. Build a logo, build a business, hire a team, get funding, whatever. You can do all that external stuff, but nothing really shifts powerfully until the internal work happens. Like we create our external world from our internal world, and super hard to explain. You just have to either be willing to take the journey or have to have experienced it.
Mm.
And for me, I'm on this journey because I had this great awakening at 40 that busted a hole into my consciousness of like, oh, all the stuff I thought I knew for certain was actually a construct of my perspective. And now I'm seeing that my perspective needs to shift in order to align more closely with who I am versus who I was trying to project.
Yeah.
Without even realizing I was projecting more than I was aligning.
Yeah.
Um, I'd love to be able to teach that. I don't think I can teach that. I think people have to be ready. They have to be, sometimes I feel like there too has to be enough discomfort for
Yeah.
someone to say, I need to do something differently. I can't keep doing this
Yeah.
before there's an opening. So I guess the short answer I would say if someone was asking is like, have you tried it? Have you tried awakening to your
Mm.
purpose? And if you have awakened, have you tried obeying it? And that's the kind of stuff you and I can help with, right? Like,
Yeah.
now, okay, if you're ready, then now you can get help.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say this. If someone ends up on my path, then there is something like needling at them. If you end up on my path, there's something needling at you. Um, and that thing is enough for me to be able to start the excavation. If the thing that's like needling at you, if you don't have that thing, we're probably not going to be a good fit. Right. So when it comes to someone who comes to me and says, why do they need to do this work? Then what I firmly believe is that, you know, if ultimately you want to create a, a sustainable business for yourself that is also profitable, a sustainable life for yourself that that you can enjoy living and that you can grow from. And if in your mind you can find those things to be tangible, then we can work together. That would be a great fit because I'm not going to give you a funnel. I'm not going to give you a funnel. I'm not going to give you a logo. I'm not going to give you a website. I'm not going to give you a cheat sheet of 30 best ways to do. I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to give you any of those things.
The how to doesn't work. Okay, that's all I had to say. Continue.
I'm not going to give you any of those things. But if, a good life is a tangible thing to you, if profit in your business, in your purpose-driven business, is a tangible asset to you, if a family that if growing a family in a healthy way is a tangible thing to you, then we can work together. Because those are tangible things to me.
I love it. Okay, audience, y'all heard it. Does this feel like a good place to leave this conversation? Because we can probably keep going, Nikki, but we got to cut it somewhere.
At some point, we have to.
So audience, this was kind of our outtake. We were serving you this, and just want to say thank you, Nikki, for being on the journey with me. It's just always good to be with you and mix it up. Audience, her links will be where to find Nikki Fagan, brandstrategy.com. Okay, go get it. And I'm still on the journey, so I'll just say if you have any questions, thoughts, want to mix it up with either one of us on a more privately, please reach out to Nikki. Please send me an email, april@forwardcoaching.com. I will drop my email wherever this video is, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye, y'all.